What's something men do that comes across as creepy? Story 1. When I was around 20 or 21, I was working as a barista. We had floor-to-ceiling windows on one side of our cafe in a busy area. Some guy, maybe mid-30s, was walking by outside, and it looked like he was coming into our store. We locked eyes, so I offered a half-hearted customer service smile, as one does. He turned the corner to the front of our store, blocked partially by a brick wall, no windows, but never came inside. I didn't think much of it and just continued on with my day. After about 3 or 4 hours later, my shift was over. I walked outside to the parking lot and I heard a, "Finally, you're off work." I turned around expecting to see a coworker or maybe a regular customer I was friends with or something. Nope. It was the guy I locked eyes with for .5 seconds several hours earlier. He was sitting at a table on our patio, but was blocked by the brick wall so I couldn't see him through the windows from inside the store. I was really startled and didn't know what to say. He then proceeded to tell me he saw me smile at him through the window, so decided to wait outside of my work for several hours so he could talk to me. I mean, it would be one thing to come into the store, buy a coffee and try to talk to me, although I still wouldn't appreciate that while at work. But this man waited outside of my work for several hours. I was so creeped out and made an excuse like, "Oh, actually, I'm just adjusting the umbrellas on the patio. I still have work." And then I went straight back inside and to the back where I waited a full hour until my coworkers confirmed he was gone. I was so scared and had male coworkers walk me to my car for like a week. Smart that you went back inside so smoothly. Women have to develop these skills starting at around age 11. A kind of similar thing happened to me. I was around 13 or 14 and was in the passenger seat of my dad's car. Smiled very briefly at a taxi driver next to us that I made eye contact with at a traffic light. He proceeded to follow us for what felt like 20 minutes. It went from dusk to dark in between time. I let my dad know, and he made a few random turns to confirm he was indeed following us. Did the whole reverse into a random driveway and flashed the high beams at him, and he disappeared. Can't even smile at someone, and yet we're all also told to smile more. It's not even just in bars. I did a summer job in a library, and a guy kept asking about my shifts. My male manager had to ask him to leave me alone. I guess he really managed that mail. Also gives off "I've never actually had a good interaction with a woman before" vibes. Who thinks this is all right? I mean, one could make the argument that men have trouble connecting with people regularly and sort of get confused about this. I'm not saying that this excuses this man's behavior. You need to be able to understand that what you're doing is really creepy. You're not sitting here waiting on a doctor's appointment or a job interview. You need to leave right away. That's awful. Story 2. When I was 19, I was a phone girl at a local pizza place. I would answer the phone and take people's order for carryout or delivery. One time, this guy called and said he was placing an order for delivery. By the end of the order, he changed his mind and said he wanted to order carryout. The dude shows up and my coworker helps him and he says, "You're not the girl I talked to on the phone. I want to talk to that girl." I realize he's talking about me and I ask what's wrong. He then tells me he thinks I have a really soothing voice and should do ASMR. I was like, okay, that's weird, but relatively harmless. The guy gets his food, then leaves. We can see him sitting in his car for like 15 minutes. Then he came back in the store with a map and started asking me a bunch of weird questions for directions to somewhere. I said, "Why can't you just use Google Maps? I see you have an iPhone," and point to his phone. Then, as I point, I see him try to hide the screen. He has the audio recorder pulled up. This weirdo came back in the store with a thinly veiled excuse of asking for directions because he was trying to record my voice. It was so creepy. I told him, "Wait 1 second," and went to the back and told some coworkers what was going on. A friend of mine who worked in the kitchen, a 6'2" musclehead, walked out and was like, "I'm great with directions. My girlfriend is terrible at them," while gesturing to me, "Let me help you." Suddenly, the guy didn't need directions anymore. So yeah, I'm going to say whatever that was creepy. I've been told I sound like a girl over the phone. People get so shocked when they arrive to pick up their order and to speak to the same girl they were talking to on the phone. As I get older, we shall see if that changes to me sounding like a woman, but every single customer has always said girl. I'm the exact opposite. Am actually a lady, but I've always had a deep voice, even as a kid, and constantly am mistaken for a guy over the phone. Even my higher-pitched customer service voice evidently just sounds like a gay man, whatever that's supposed to mean. There's unfortunately the very illegal version of deepfakes of guys that are desperate to have whatever woman they want in corn pictures. And with the ability to clone voices, this is like the audio version of that, with this guy trying to record this girl's voice. Especially when you can clone anybody's voice nowadays. That's actually quite a bit scarier now. Story 3. Sit next to you when you're the only two people in a place with many, many seats. If you go to Japan, you can experience the opposite effect, where the last 2 seats on the train to be filled with the ones next to you. In Korea, people will mash themselves into a densely packed sardine cube rather than sit next to a black person on a subway. My friend told me, "My reflex is to be offended, but I love having the space." That's kind of hilarious and kind of sad at the same time. Good for your friend for having a sense of humor. This happened to me once on the bus. There were literally about 30 free seats. The genders were reversed, however, me as the guy and the other a random woman. I was so confused for a second, said, "Excuse me." She let me out and I moved to a different seat. I was dumbfounded the rest of the day after that experience. Some people are just nuts. As an aside, I'm fascinated by the psychological effect of sitting next to someone in a full bus/room versus when it empties out. A few times the train is emptied out and I've been left next to one person with no one else around, and it's hugely uncomfortable, even though nothing has changed except the presence/proximity of other people. Once other people are gone, you're no longer sitting next to someone, you're sitting with them. And I feel this huge discomfort, like there's pressure to interact in some way, or there's forced intimacy. It's weird. The problem is that moving away might come across as rude, so most people just stick to their seats. This recently happened to me, and I must admit I was severely creeped out. 20 open seats, and you choose the seat directly next to me? Why? I'm a guy, and this annoys me. Hell, it annoys me when there are plenty of parking spaces and someone parks next to me. Same thing with urinals. Yeah, I just think it's like anything, with like planes, with buses, with everything. Everything's getting made smaller. And, like the seats are getting shorter and smaller, even in economy, and people get more and more crammed together, so it's just really annoying if you find yourself sitting next to someone. If there were more reasonable seats on the bus, maybe it wouldn't be so bad, and everyone would have their space. Like actual space. Story 4. Not backing off when a woman indicates in any way whatsoever, verbally or physically, she isn't interested, yet they continue or think they can continue to harass you or change your mind. I genuinely have zero idea how there are guys out there with this much confidence. If I make anything that could be even considered as a move and I get rejected, then I'm getting as far away from that situation as I possibly can immediately and cringing about it in the shower/morning commute for years to come. The difference is that those people aren't generally looking for consent, just agreement. You get rejected, and your reaction is, "Oh, smeg, well, she doesn't want me. Time to go." They get rejected, and they lack a reaction to the rejection because the person they're going after's opinion is not relevant to their goal. I think it's also a really fracked up pride thing. Some people will take the sting and move on, whereas others simply think it's something you can battle through with persistence. Media hasn't helped, to be fair. Rom-coms are full of guys who can't take no for an answer, and eventually the girl relents. Yes, after soft rejection, because too afraid to actually reject, I hate it when they're like, "What, you don't even want to be my friend?" Like, this whole interaction started with him hitting on me. Why would I think for a second that he just wants to be friends? Story 5. Ask you out while you're at work or a situation in which you can't leave. Or if you're a bartender or waitress, and they'll only tip you if you talk to them or give out your number. Like, no, you can keep your tip. I'm working. I'm not here to keep you company. You can go find an escort if you want paid company. Edit. I don't mind having conversations with customers. I enjoy talking with people and learning about their experiences. It's when men use money as a weapon so you don't reject them, and they think women simply won't say no if money is involved because we're in a job where tips are important. Example, I'll give you $20 if you give me your number. I'll give you $20 if you tell me your name, or just any scenario where they use tip money to be able to sexualize you. There's not really a good time to do this ever, but if there's any guys reading this that absolutely have to shoot your shot with someone that's working, just slide them a note or a business card and say something super quick and brief and don't wait for a response. If they found you attractive too, they'll hit you up. Otherwise, take the loss. Story 6. For the last few years, I've been in the habit of walking up behind women in the office, massaging their shoulders and whispering in their ears, "Daddy's home." Inappropriate? Conan O'Brien. Not related to this thread necessarily, but I had a female coworker, I'm a guy, walk up behind me while I was sitting down, proceed to start massaging my shoulders and rubbing her hands across my chest, all while making sounds. It was a brief encounter, but probably the most awkward 30 seconds of my life. My ex-wife did this to a guy at a bar thinking it was me by accident. I was across the room and she was massaging him for a solid 20 seconds, and then looked up to see me across the room looking at her confused. She looked at the guy, and the guy said, "I don't think I'm who you think I am, but you don't have to stop." Pretty memorable and funny moment. I walked up next to a short redhead that I'd glimpsed out of the corner of my eye at the grocery store years ago and murmured something like, "Nice butt," or something similar that isn't appropriate, but you may say to joke with your wife. Almost as soon as I said it, I realized something was off and looked directly at her and realized she wasn't my wife. I pretty much went, "OMG, you're not my wife," and she just started laughing. I left so I could go find my wife and tell her what happened. No, everyone does it right. I don't think that's ever been appropriate, even when I was working as in my 20s. I wouldn't even think of it. It's awful. No. You respect people's spaces. People got work to do. No, I don't know what else to say. No, don't do this. No. Story 7. When men ask, "Where's my hug?" I was at a business meeting for an internship, and the older man kept pushing like, "Oh, I hug everyone." And everyone watched me, intently urging me to hug this man. It made me very uncomfortable, and I didn't go back. I don't care if people are just huggers. You can't really force that on non-huggers. Yeah, if you're just a hugger, you still respect people's boundaries, or you're just a jerkwad. I'm a guy. My wife has an acquaintance. I don't like her. Whenever you see her at the bar, she comes up to me and asks for a hug. I always say no, and she gets offended and complains to everyone that I won't hug her. It's the most uncomfortable and awkward thing I've ever experienced. She's probably widely disliked and compensates by trying to get close to people. It's backfiring and she doesn't even know it. It's quite tragic, to be honest. I used to know a guy in college who did this, and it made my skin crawl. Everyone knows this guy.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Me. I'm married. Shows ring. Random guy. I don't believe you. They all say that. Then it just gets creepy because no matter what you say, they just don't believe anything and keep pressing you to leave with them. That hyper-aggressiveness is creepy. I had a guy respond to I'm married with, "Oh yeah? Where's your husband then?" As if married women are chaperoned by their husbands on every errand. OMG, yes, I had this happen to me too, which freaked me out because he was so much bigger than me and started to get closer to me as he said that. Where's your husband then sounds so threatening for some reason. Yes, the specific dude I'm thinking of followed up by aggressively demanding to know what high school I was going to. I was in my late 20s at the time, but looked younger. He looked at least 40. Besides, even if you're lying about being married, that's still a no. What are they expecting? Oh, you caught me. I'm not actually married. Guess I'll suck your tool now. You caught me. I'm sorry. The truth is that I find you so repulsive that I spent $1,800 on a ring for myself in the hopes that I could avoid even this 45-second interaction with you, and it didn't even frackin' work. Story 9. Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest. I'm very insecure about being creepy. I don't really have a great grasp of social situations because I'm autistic and I don't interact with people I don't know very often, and I don't know how other people are going to perceive the things I say. But these comments make me feel a lot better because it wouldn't occur to me to do any of these things, and I feel visceral disgust towards most of them, which actually makes me think maybe I do actually intuitively know how not to be creepy, and I just completely lack self-confidence. I've found that a lot of people on the spectrum may come off as slightly awkward rather than actually creepy in social misunderstandings. Don't worry. In my experience, people on the spectrum are generally not creepy, because a lot of creepiness is about not respecting a no, and autistic people are great at taking people at their word. But there is a pattern of creepy people who happen to be autistic using it as an excuse for why they're behaving in a socially unacceptable way. People who don't know much about autism don't necessarily know how to call them out on it, so they often get away with it way longer than they should, which leads to a general impression in the population that autism can cause creepiness, and even filters down to folks like you who are autistic. It's just another way that creepy people suck. Also an autistic dude. I'm definitely dealing with the same insecurities. It's really reassuring to know that we're overthinking this. My mom and sister are always telling me that when I'm ready, it's going to be really easy to find a wife because good men are hard to come by. I've been sitting here bald and fat and autistic wondering what the hell they're talking about, and it turns out dudes are going around lifting up strangers with hugs and whispering weird compliments under their breath. Maybe it was the NTs who were weird all along. Story 10. Hey, where do you work? Oh, which one? Yeah, there's like 6 of them. Which one do you work at? No, I won't show up at your work. Hey, did you block me? What did I do wrong? Worse is when you have one following you to work. I had to ask a male coworker to pretend to be my partner to get this creep to go away. Story 11. Speaking as a 5'2", 1.57 woman, guys you barely know or even total strangers lifting you up off the ground to hug you. I'm 5 feet and this happens far too often. I hate it. Try biting them. Ah, the house cat strategy. Bold. Or when they constantly make comments about how light you look, or small and short you are. I can toss you around, I bet. Ew. My best friend in high school was 4'10", 90 pounds, and she still gets the spinner and would only need to lean over comments constantly. We're in our late 30s now. Also creepy is when men ask her how old she is and are visibly disappointed that she's not 14 or 15. Story 12. Stand an inch away from you when you're in a line. Smeg. Anyone doing that is creepy. Have you seen India and their lines? They stand tool length from each other in lines. So an inch? Just me? It wasn't cool pre-COVID and it's not cool now. It doesn't need to be 6 feet, but back the frack up. I feel like some people intentionally started standing on my heels in line during COVID. You know, because nobody can tell them what to do. Story 13. Talk to me, a male, about how much they disrespect women like I'm in on it, especially if I've never met the guy. I've always been curious how these conversations go between men in private. Like when abusive boyfriends/husbands describe how they treat their woman to their male friends. They don't go into details usually. It's more just sweeping statements about women being X or projecting their own issues onto them. Story 14. I, 31 female, was walking up the stairs at a train station carrying a large suitcase the other day. A guy wanted to help and just took my suitcase from me without asking. I had to tell him 3 times I was okay and didn't need his help. The suitcase wasn't particularly heavy, just big. Don't just grab other people's stuff without asking. I know he just wanted to help, but still. People in general, when they try to help, often forget to ask. They think, I'm doing a good deed, so they won't mind, and stop thinking there. Story 15. Dude, is no one going to say unsolicited tool pics? Like, y'all be airdropping them. I had a guy tell me that women appreciate it because they want to know what they're working with. Nobody's gonna work that smeg if that's your opening. I always tell my husband that if the market was there would have been the same number of nudie magazines marketed to women as there were for men back in the day. Story 16. Continue trying to get your attention when you're not engaging with them. Story 17. Had a guy at the grocery store recently do this. Refused to give him my number because I wasn't interested. He tried to argue and gaslight me, saying that he didn't even want to date me, just wants to make friends. I respectfully declined. He then proceeded to follow me through the store, then blocked my way with his cart saying, Unfortunately, I have to insist on getting to know you. Then I just yelled at him and the staff kicked him out. This smeg happens to me all the time. It's always the same. I'm so tired. I'm starting to really despise men because of it. Even when they're being genuinely nice, it always starts with, What aisle is the bread? Where's the right train station? Which bus does it have to take? Where's this address? I really don't want to help people anymore. Story 18. I used to work in a urology clinic. I would take patients back to their rooms and prep them for various procedures. This typically involved washing the area where the urethra is, and often injecting numbing gel into the opening to help with scopes or sounds going in during the procedure. One guy in particular used to come in monthly for a urethral dilation, which involves a series of gradually larger sounds being pushed into the urethra to help dilate strictures. After several months of him coming in for these procedures, he asked me out on a date during his checkout. He straight up asked the receptionist on his way out to go get me, and then asked me out right there at the desk. I was around 23 at the time, and he was like 45. He also did have an oddly massive flaccid penis, and the whole thing was just terrible. Story 19. Yep, because many men respect, I have a boyfriend, a hell of a lot more than they respect no. Your no isn't impressive. Your boyfriend's no is. Wonder why? Edit. I'm seeing a lot of replies in the vein of, well, sometimes no means chase me, and there's no way to tell which one it is. And what I would implore men to just start doing from now on is always treat it like it means no. In the interest of not accidentally or purposely undermining women when they really do mean no, to the point where they feel like they need a male chaperone to provide the no for it to be acknowledged. If a woman says no, just consider it done. While I don't personally know any women who routinely pull that smeg with men, I know it does happen, and it's an idea that's been supported by pop culture, much to the chagrin of most women. But women who will send mixed messages like that and play with your feelings are not worth your time at all. We could all afford to just be a little more straightforward and respectful with each other.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.